He woke to the sound of his own breath, ragged and shallow, echoing off metal walls that didn't belong to any world he'd ever seen. It wasn't stone, not steel, something older, something that felt like it remembered the beginning of time itself. The surface beneath him was cold, smooth, and humming with a low vibration, like a beast whispering through the bones of the earth. He tried to move, but his muscles screamed. Every nerve felt burned raw, as if he'd been torn apart and sewn back together with lightning. His claws slid free out of instinct. The sound, that familiar metallic snick, was the only thing that reminded him he was still himself. The air was thick, heavy with dust and something chemical, like ozone after a thunderstorm. But there was no sky, no air, just darkness that seemed to swallow the light the moment it tried to exist. He pushed himself to his knees, breath clouding faintly, though the air was neither warm nor cold. It was dead. He sniffed the air, nothing alive. Not a hint of blood, not the faintest pulse of heart or heat. Only metal. A million shades of metal. It was wrong, all of it. His memory flared in pieces, claws slashing through fire, a blinding green storm, his body burning apart, molecule by molecule, and then this. No sky, no ground, just this crypt. A faint light flickered somewhere far ahead, a thin, sickly green glow pulsing behind layers of carved metal. The walls were engraved with symbols that moved when he wasn't looking. They weren't written so much as alive, patterns shifting like veins under a skin made of silver. He took a step forward, and the floor vibrated in response. Something beneath it knew. The first voice came not from the air, but from the metal itself, a whisper in vibration. A hum so deep it bypassed sound and went straight into the bones. He didn't understand the words, but his body did. It was the same primal sense that warned animals of an earthquake before the ground breaks. Danger, ancient, endless danger. Where the hell am I? He muttered, voice hoarse. The sound barely made it past his throat before the walls drank it in. The glow brightened. The air shifted. Dust floated upward, not downward, caught in invisible tides of static. He stepped closer, claws still out, every instinct screaming predator and prey all at once. He'd seen monsters before. He'd been one. But nothing in his long, cursed life had ever felt like this. Like standing inside the lungs of a dead god. A low tremor rolled beneath his feet. Then came the scraping, soft at first, metal against metal, like something moving on the other side of a massive wall. The sound multiplied. Scratches became steps. Steps became rhythm. 1,000 machines waking from sleep. Yeah, he growled, voice a low rasp. Guess I ain't alone, after all. He crouched low, senses stretched to their limit. Somewhere deeper in the tomb, mechanisms turned, gears the size of fortresses grinding against each other. The green glow became a flood, spilling through the cracks in the walls. The air smelled of ionized metal and death, and then they came. From the darkness ahead, figures emerged, skeletal shapes of silver and iron, their eyes burning with emerald fire. They moved in perfect rhythm, no sound but the weight of their steps on the metal floor. Necron warriors. He didn't know their name, but he felt what they were. Not life, not machine. Something in between. Something that had forgotten both. They raised their weapons. Gauss flares humming to life, green energy dancing along their barrels like captured lightning. Wolverine's lips curled back, feral and instinctive. Come on then. The first shot tore through the air, a line of green energy slicing past his shoulder and melting a chunk of wall behind him. The heat seared his skin. He didn't wait for the second. He leaped forward with a snarl, claws flashing under the sick light. His first strike cleaved through one of the metal skeletons, splitting it clean through the chest, but instead of blood, black mist poured out, evaporating into sparks. Another blast hit him square in the side. Pain bloomed like fire through his ribs, flesh sizzling, bone exposed. He roared, staggered, and then it closed. His healing factor kicked in, skin knitting, muscle reforming around the wound. The Necrons paused for a fraction of a second, their heads tilting in eerie unison. They had never seen regeneration before. "Yeah," he spat, breathing hard. "You ain't seen nothin' like me." He charged again. The claws screamed through metal. Sparks and light exploded around him. Each kill left the air heavier, as though the tomb itself fed on violence. The more he fought, the more alive it felt. The walls pulsed brighter, the hum deepened, and the symbols began to twist faster. Then, from behind the ranks, something larger moved. A shadow with eyes like dying suns. The floor cracked under its weight as it stepped forward, a Necron lord. Its staff carved from black stone that shimmered with contained galaxies. Wolverine froze, his feral grin fading. The lord raised its staff. The walls of the tomb seemed to bow in reverence. Wolverine whispered to himself, voice almost human now. "Guess this is where it starts, huh?" The staff came down, and the world went white. The blast hurled him backward into a wall of moving metal. It wasn't solid, it shifted, rippling like liquid steel, swallowing him halfway before spitting him out again. His body hit the ground hard enough to dent it. He could feel his bones break, heal, break again. The cycle stuttering under the sheer force of the energy coursing through the room. His body wasn't designed for this kind of war. Not this kind of reality. When his vision returned, he saw what the light had revealed. The chamber was vast, cathedral-like, but wrong, its geometry defying sense. Angles bent where they shouldn't, corners led into infinity, and every surface pulsed with veins of green light that ran deeper than sight could follow. Suspended above him were hundreds of metallic pods, sarcophagi hanging from the ceiling like cocoons. Some were still, others twitched. He groaned, pushed himself up, and spat blood. It hissed when it hit the floor. "Great," he muttered, flexing his shoulders. "Even my blood ain't welcome here." The Necron Lord advanced slowly, its movement precise and silent. Around it, the lesser warriors stepped aside in perfect formation, weapons held across their chests like relics in prayer. Its gaze locked on him to burning emeralds fixed on one speck of defiance. He could hear it speak, though its mouth never moved. The sound crawled inside his skull, not in words, but in meaning. Flesh that endures. Weakness pretending to be eternal. Wolverine snarled. "You talking to me, Tin Man?" The Lord raised its staff, and a shockwave rippled through the room. The pods above began to open one by one, hissing streams of vapor into the air. More skeletal figures unfolded from within, their eyes igniting as if the tomb's soul was returning piece by piece. He didn't wait. He ran straight for the Lord, claws blazing silver against the green light. The first swing hit with everything he had, pure rage, pure motion. Sparks exploded. The metal cracked. For one heartbeat, the impossible happened. The Necron Lord staggered, but then its form dissolved into a blur of data and light, reforming behind him. The staff struck his back, slicing through flesh and bone like butter. He screamed as the energy burned through his spine, turning pain into white-hot clarity. He fell, twitched, rose again. The wound closed. The Lord tilted its head. "You cannot die. We will learn why. Yeah. You're welcome to try," Wolverine spat and lunged again. The next few minutes were chaos. Claws against machines, bone against eternity. He tore through Necron warriors like they were made of foil, only for their parts to crawl back together. Wires, knitting, light rejoining, shattered forms. His healing matched theirs, a nightmare of infinite endurance. Each cut he made was mirrored in his own flesh. The tomb seemed to learn from him, its walls resonating in rhythm with his heartbeat. The green glow intensified until the air became a storm. Every surface buzzed with static. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The warriors froze mid-stride. The hum fell silent. Wolverine stood panting, chest heaving, body steaming. The silence pressed against his skull until it felt like his thoughts would bleed. Then the floor beneath him opened, not cracking, but unfolding. Panels of black alloy slid apart with the sound of whispering sand. A spiral staircase of floating platforms descended into endless green light. He stared down, knuckles still wet with molten metal. "Guess you're inviting me in." Something deep in him wanted to turn back. Every instinct screamed that this place wasn't just alive, it was aware. But curiosity, or maybe stubbornness, won. He stepped forward. The first platform sank under his weight, carrying him slowly into the abyss below. As he descended, the air grew colder, but not in temperature, in memory. He could feel thoughts that weren't his, whispering at the edges of his mind. Images of stars dying, worlds stripped to bone, empires erased without a sound. The tomb was not just ancient, it was infinite. His claws retracted with a slow, metallic sigh. For the first time since waking, he felt small. Not in the way a man feels against an army, but the way life feels in front of something that never knew death. Below him, a faint shape glowed in the green sea, a monolithic door covered in moving sigils. And in front of it, the silhouettes of boaties, hundreds, maybe thousands, floating weightless in the air, caught mid-scream. Their faces were human, or had been. Wolverine's jaw tightened. He'd seen enough labs, enough horrors, to know what this was. "You've been collecting, huh?" he whispered. The whisper echoed back, but it wasn't his voice. It was the tomb, speaking in harmony with his thoughts. "We remember flesh. We remember pain." He froze, heart thundering. "Then you're gonna remember me too." The door ahead began to open. Light poured out, not green this time, but white, pure and blinding, like the memory of a star being born. It hit him like a wave. For a moment he saw nothing but fire and shadows moving within it. Then came the sound. Not machines, not footsteps, but breathing. Something inside the light was awake. The light dimmed, not fading so much as retreating, coiling back like a living thing afraid of what it had revealed. Wolverine stood at the threshold, claws drawn, his reflection rippling across the mirrored floor that wasn't quite solid. The air around him was thick with particles of light, drifting like ash, each one humming faintly in tune with the pulse of the tomb. His heart matched it without permission. Every beat, every breath seemed to echo through the walls like a trespass. The chamber beyond the door was impossibly vast. Columns of obsidian stretched into the void above, each one carved with figures locked in endless torment. Humans, Xenos, even shapes he couldn't name. They were trapped mid-scream, their mouths open, eyes wide, bodies frozen into the structure like fossils of pain. Between those pillars moved streams of energy, bright and liquid, running through conduits shaped like veins. And at the center, floating above a circular pit of light, was something that looked alive and dead at the same time. A mass of black metal and drifting embers. Shifting in form as if remembering how to be whole, he took one step forward, and the entire floor resonated, responding to his presence like a heartbeat skipping a note. Then, a voice closer this time, inside his skull, soft as silk over razors. "You do not belong here, child of dying stars." He froze. "You got that right," he muttered, but his voice came out as a whisper. The air swallowed it whole. "And yet, you endure. Flesh refusing oblivion. The old curse of your kind." He could see it now. Within the mass of shifting metal, a shape pulsed, vaguely humanoid, radiant with fractured light. A being bound inside the tomb's mechanisms, tethered by chains made of gravity and thought. Its eyes opened, and the glow of them nearly drove him to his knees. They weren't eyes in the human sense. They were windows to something older than life itself, a mind that had seen stars die and gods burn. "What the hell are you?" Wolverine rasped. "We are the memory of hunger." The floor trembled beneath him, and from the surrounding darkness, hundreds of small constructs began to rise. They looked like scarabs, mechanical insects with spinning mandibles and blades for legs, crawling across the floor and ceiling in perfect synchrony. They formed a circle around him, their green eyes burning brighter, their metallic legs clicking in rhythm with his heartbeat. He bared his teeth, claws sliding out once more. "You picked the wrong guy to box in." The first scarab leaped, slicing toward his throat. His claws met it mid-air, shattering it into a spray of fragments. But each piece that hit the ground crawled back together, reforming into something larger. Soon there were dozens, then hundreds. He slashed again and again, the air alive with the shriek of metal on metal. They swarmed him, climbing over his back, biting through his armor and skin. He roared, spinning, shaking them loose. His blood hit the ground in burning drops, and where it landed, the metal turned alive. The tomb drank it, absorbed it, pulsing brighter. The being above watched in silence. He fell to one knee, gasping, covered in cuts that healed even as new ones opened. You feed in on me. We learn. We adapt. Flesh is information." He spat, feral eyes narrowing, then choke on it. With a snarl, he plunged both claws into the ground. Energy screamed through the floor, wild and uncontrolled. The impact sent a shockwave through the swarm, throwing scarabs into the air. The chains binding the figure above rattled, cracks of light spilling from the walls like veins bursting. Something deep within the tomb stirred, something larger than all of it. The walls shifted, plates sliding and locking into new configurations. The chamber began to collapse inward, folding around him like the closing jaws of a machine god. Wolverine staggered to his feet, chest heaving. The voice came again, now fractured, distorted anger bleeding through its control. "You cannot leave." Wasn't asking permission. He sprinted toward the far wall, claws carving molten grooves in the metal. The room shrieked, alarms echoing in frequencies too deep to be human. A section of the floor gave way, revealing a corridor leading further down. Without a second thought, he dove through. The fall felt endless, a tunnel of spinning light, symbols rushing past him like living equations. He hit the ground hard enough to crack it, rolled, and came up swinging. Nothing moved. Silence again. He was in a smaller chamber now, circular, lined with what looked like stasis pods. Inside each one floated a shape. Human, once. Some wore imperial insignia, others ancient armor he didn't recognize. Each body was wired into the walls, veins replaced by cables, eyes replaced by faint glows of green. Their chests rose and fell in unison, though none were alive. Jesus, he whispered, stepping closer to one of them. The face behind the glass was pale, jaw slack, expression frozen in agony. But as he stared, its mouth twitched. The whisper came again, not from the pod, but from all of them at once. Join us. Wolverine backed away slowly, claws lifting. Ain't my kind of party. The lights in the chamber began to flicker. The pods trembled. One by one, the bodies opened their eyes. All green, all empty. The tomb wasn't just a machine. It was a factory, and now it was awake. The first pod cracked open with a hiss that sounded too much like breathing. Steam bled across the floor, curling around his boots as the figure inside staggered forward. Half man, half machine, its flesh torn and threaded with alien wires. The cables pulsed under its skin, forcing movement where life had long since died. It looked at him without eyes, guided instead by whatever cruel programming kept it moving. Back off, he growled. The thing obeyed for half a second, trembling as if confused. Then the light in its chest flared and it lunged. He met it with a slash that would have gutted a tank. The claws sliced clean through the creature's torso, and it collapsed in a heap of sparks and blood. But before the body hit the ground, the cables whipped free, snaking along the floor like veins searching for new flesh. They slithered toward him, and where they touched his boots, he felt them bite. He tore his foot free and stomped, crushing the cables beneath him. They twitched once, twice, and went still. But the other pods were opening now, all of them. The sound filled the room, a chorus of mechanical exhalations, wet and rhythmic. Dozens of half-human monstrosities stepped forward in jerking synchronization. Their movements like marionettes pulled by an invisible puppeteer. Wolverine's breath came fast, steady. His mind switched to survival mode. No thought, only instinct. He ran straight into them, claws flashing, every strike a blur of muscle and motion. Bodies fell, parts scattered, sparks rained like fire. He didn't count kills, didn't care. All that mattered was momentum. Keep moving, keep cutting. The only way out was through. One of the constructs caught him from behind, a cable driving through his shoulder. He roared, twisting, snapping its neck with one hand before ripping the wire out of his flesh. The wound sealed instantly, steam rising from the skin. He looked around a mountain of corpses already, though none bled right. The floor beneath him was slick with oil and something darker. Then the room changed again. The walls shifted, folding in on themselves, metal grinding on metal. From above, tendrils of green light descended energy beams, scanning him, dissecting him with impossible precision. He could feel the tomb studying him, analyzing every molecule. His claws twitched, his heartbeat quickened, his healing factor burned hotter, and then pain. A spike of light hit his chest, cutting straight through skin and bone. He screamed, a guttural animal sound, as the beam pierced his heart. It didn't kill him. It recorded him. He saw his own biology unfold before his eyes. Cells replicating, bones mending. The inner machinery of his curse laid bare like data. The voice returned, now deafening, vibrating through every cell. We understand now. We can make you better. He staggered backward, chest heaving. You want to fix me? Gotta kill me first. We cannot kill what does not end. His claws snapped out, dripping his own blood. Then you're gonna have to learn how. He leaped upward, grabbing the beam's source, a floating orb suspended in the center of the ceiling. His claws drove through it, shattering the mechanism in an explosion of green fire. The entire room screamed as if alive. Lights flickered, the floor cracked, and the stasis pods erupted like bursting veins. He hit the ground hard, rolling through debris as the chamber began to collapse. Sparks rained from above, and the whispering voices turned into shrieks, mechanical, furious, desperate. The tomb wasn't used to being wounded. Through the falling wreckage, he saw another door opening at the far end, smaller, glowing faintly blue instead of green. It called to him, not with sound but with the memory of open air. He ran for it, metal raining around him, claws slicing through debris. He dove through the gap just as the chamber sealed shut behind him. The door clamped like a closing jaw, silencing the storm. On the other side was darkness again, but this one was different. Colder, quieter. The walls were smoother, almost organic. They glowed faintly, veins of light running through them like a nervous system. He leaned against the wall, catching his breath. What the hell is this place? In the distance, something pulsed, slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat, and for the first time, he realized it wasn't just the tomb that was awake. Something beneath it was dreaming. The tunnel wound downward for what felt like hours. Wolverine stopped counting turns after the first dozen. The path was seamless, cut from a single impossible material that neither echoed nor yielded. Every footstep landed flat, soundless. The air grew thicker, heavier with a smell that wasn't quite decay and not quite oil, something between rotting flesh and melted circuit boards. He could taste it, a copper tense that stuck to his tongue like blood. When the tunnel finally widened, the light changed. The sick green of the tomb gave way to a dull amber glow that seemed to bleed out of the walls themselves. Shapes emerged in that half-light machines, or what might have once been machines, fused with bone. Rows of skeletal forms hung like trophies, each one suspended by wires that drilled into their skulls. Some were human, some were not. Their chests rose and fell slowly, impossibly, like lungs that refused to admit they were already dead. He stepped closer to one. The body twitched. "Easy," he muttered, crouching, claws half extended. "Ain't here too." The head jerked upright. Its mouth opened wide, too wide, revealing a throat filled with cables that pulsed like veins. From that throat came a sound, not a scream, not a word, but something that scraped the mind instead of the ear. He stumbled backward, the sound buzzing inside his skull. The rest of the hanging bodies began to stir, twitching in rhythm. The wires glowed brighter, synchronized with the pulse of the tomb above. Wolverine bared his teeth. Gesnap times over. The first one tore free of its cables and dropped to the floor. The impact was heavy, wet. Its eyes flickered open, hollow sockets filled with green fire. He swung before it could move, cleaving its head from its shoulders. Sparks and smoke burst out, and a sickly sweet smell filled the air. Another dropped, then another. The chamber erupted in motion. He fought like a cornered animal, fast and savage. His claws cut arcs of silver through the amber gloom, tearing through flesh and wire alike. Limbs fell, heads rolled, but each kill came slower, each wound heavier. The tomb was feeding on him. He could feel it. Every drop of blood that hit the ground vanished into the metal, absorbed like water into sand. The hum of the room deepened with every heartbeat. Then it began whispering. Not the tomb, not the voices from before. Different, closer, softer. Logan. He froze. The sound was unmistakable. "Jean, don't," he hissed. "Not you. You're not supposed to be here," her voice said. But it wasn't her. The tone was wrong. Hollow, like a recording played backward through static. "They're watching you. You shouldn't have come." He turned slowly, claws still drawn. There was nothing behind him but walls. But the air shimmered, and for a split second he saw her. Red hair, glowing eyes, that faint smile. Then she was gone, replaced by a metallic reflection of her face melting into the wall itself. He roared, slamming his claws into the metal. "Get out of my head." The wall rippled like liquid, absorbing the blow. The whispering grew louder. "We learn. We remember your pain. Then remember this." He snarled and slashed again. The impact sent a crack running up the wall. Light poured out, bright, electric blue this time, different from the tomb's usual hue. The hum faltered, stuttered, and something behind the wall screamed, a high mechanical shriek that made the air vibrate. The chamber shuddered, dust falling like snow. The whispers cut off. He stood there, breathing hard, the echo of her voice still in his head. That was when he saw the movement. In the far corner, partially hidden by shadows, a figure was crawling, small, human-shaped, wrapped in what looked like torn fatigues. It was dragging one leg behind it, leaving a trail of black oil instead of blood. He approached cautiously, claws ready. "You human?" The figure looked up. Its face was half bone, half metal, eyes flickering weakly. The voice that came out was broken, fragmented, as if several people were speaking through it at once. "Don't let it touch you." Wolverine crouched beside it. What's the creature seized his wrist with surprising strength, metal fingers digging into his skin. "It feeds on you," it whispered. "It copies you." And then it convulsed, spine arching, mouth opening in a silent scream as light poured from every wound. The wires beneath the floor came alive, slithering toward the body, swallowing it whole. Within seconds, it was gone. Wolverine stood there in the dark, staring at the empty space. His reflection in the metal floor looked wrong now, taller, broader, his eyes faintly glowing green. He blinked. The glow faded. "Yeah," he muttered, voice low. "It's learning, all right." The corridor narrowed until it felt like the world itself was closing in around him. Each wall shimmered faintly, alive with motion beneath its surface. He touched one with the back of his hand and felt it pulse, warm and wet like skin. He drew back quickly, claws half ready, the scent of scorched metal lingering where his flesh had brushed it. The tomb was no longer pretending to be stone or alloy. It was changing, taking shape around him. He moved carefully, listening. Somewhere deep below, a sound like a heartbeat pounded in slow rhythm. The floor vibrated with it. Every beat traveled through the soles of his boots, up his legs, until it felt as though the pulse belonged to him. He tried to count the rhythm, but it shifted, syncing itself to his own. He clenched his fists until his claws cut into his palms. The pain was real, grounding. He needed real. The path opened into a chamber filled with hanging lights, suspended spheres that spun lazily in the air. Inside each sphere drifted fragments of something organic, flesh, bone, tissue. They rotated in slow motion, preserved in translucent gel. Wolverine stared at them, his reflection broken across a dozen glass surfaces. Every one of the fragments twitched when he breathed. He backed away, slow, careful, but the spheres followed him. One drifted close enough that he could see the details of what was trapped inside a hand. Small, child-sized, the fingers flexing slightly as though dreaming. His throat tightened. The hum rose. The tomb was feeding him memories now. Not random, chosen. Weapon X, the tank. The screaming. He shook his head hard. No, not again. The glass cracked. The suspended hand burst apart into a cloud of liquid metal that poured toward him like mercury. It struck his chest, wrapped around him in ribbons of molten silver, and hardened instantly. He tried to move, but it held fast, squeezing until his ribs creaked. He slashed out, the claws tearing grooves through the new armor, but each cut sealed itself in the same breath. The whisper came again, the voice now deeper, layered with static. You are data. You are pattern, he roared, pulling with everything he had. The metal buckled, groaned, and shattered under sheer force. He stumbled forward, coughing, half blind from the heat. The fragments of silver scattered, then crawled back together into a shape vaguely like him. Smaller, smoother, eyes burning green. He stared. You gotta be kidding me. The copy lunged. Its claws, perfect mirrors of his own, flashed, clashing against his. Sparks rained between them. The sound was like a scream stretched into metal. It moved with his rhythm, his instincts, every counter perfectly timed. He swung low, feinted, slashed upward, and it matched him, move for move. For every wound he gave it, one appeared on his own body, healing just as fast. Yeah, he grunted between blows. That's my trick, bub. You're welcome to it. He let it attack, studying its rhythm, waiting for that one imperfection. When it overextended, he twisted, locking its arm with his own and driving both sets of claws through its chest. They punched out the other side, molten light spilling from the wound. He shoved it backward into the wall, pinning it there until it stopped moving. For a moment, he thought he'd won. Then the copy smiled, his smile, and whispered in his own voice. The tomb is hungry. It dissolved into mist. The air around him vibrated, humming so loudly he could feel it in his teeth. The walls brightened until they hurt to look at. From every direction, whispers converged into a single tone, one word, repeated like a prayer. Consume, consume, consume. He fell to one knee, covering his ears, but the sound wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside him, crawling down his spine, resonating with the adamantium in his bones. His vision blurred, his heart racing faster than he thought possible. The tomb was sinking to him again, copying not just his flesh now, but his fury, his rage, his will to live. The chamber shook violently. Panels tore free from the ceiling, revealing something massive above a sphere of black glass, orbiting machinery glowing with veins of light. It pulsed in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. Wolverine rose slowly, chest heaving. You want hunger? He growled. I'll give you hunger. He leaped, claws flashing, driving straight into the core. The impact erupted in a storm of light and sound, the tomb screaming as if its own body had been wounded. Energy poured through him, burning everything it touched: flesh, bone, memory. When the light faded, he was on the ground again, smoke rising from his skin. The chamber was quiet. The heartbeat had stopped. But beneath that silence, another rhythm began, softer, fainter. The tomb wasn't dying. It was listening, and it had learned how to bleed. The air tasted of iron and burnt ozone. Every breath scorched his throat. The silence that followed the explosion wasn't empty. It was thick, pregnant with thought, as though the tomb itself were considering what to do next. Wolverine dragged himself to his feet, body trembling. Smoke rose from the wounds that hadn't fully closed, the flesh beneath his skin glowing faintly from the energy still crackling through him. His claws, once a cold silver, now shimmered with a faint green hue. He glanced down at them, frowning. "What did you do to me?" The tomb didn't answer. Instead, the floor began to move again, slow, deliberate, like something stretching after a long sleep. Shapes emerged from the surface, half-formed faces pressing outward before dissolving back into metal. Every few steps, one of them lingered longer than the last, mouthing silent words. He recognized one of them, Jean, then another, Scott, then faces he didn't even know. All human, all fading as soon as he looked too long. They weren't real. They were memories, stolen from somewhere deep inside him. He clenched his fists. "You dig around in my head again, you better like what you find." The corridor shifted direction. He felt it rather than saw it, a subtle tilt, as though gravity itself had decided to bend towards something ahead. The faint hum returned, not mechanical this time, but organic, wet. The heartbeat had changed. It was faster now. He followed it, every step echoing through the hollow chamber. The walls seemed to lean inward, narrowing until he could barely fit. His claws scraped metal as he passed, leaving trails of glowing green sparks. The tunnel opened into a space that reeked of heat and death. It was a forge, or something that wanted to be one. Rows of crucibles lined the room, each filled with molten light that wasn't fire but liquid energy. Machines hung from the ceiling, limbs of silver and black metal lowering and rising in rhythm. They worked on bodies, assembling them from flesh, bone, and machine parts, human shapes with hollow chests and no faces. Each one was born screaming. Their cries cut short as the tomb sealed their mouths shut. Wolverine stopped at the edge, heart hammering. The smell was unbearable, a mixture of burnt oil, metal, dust, and something disturbingly human. He watched as a fresh construct was lowered into one of the crucibles, its skin melting away until only a skeleton of light remained. The machines poured green fire into it, and when it rose again, its chest glowed faintly with the same light that now flickered in his claws. That was when he understood. The tomb wasn't just studying him anymore. It was making more of him. One of the half-finished creatures stumbled from the forge, its movements jerky and uncertain. It looked like him, or close enough to make his stomach twist. Adamantium bones, muscular frame. Even the scars were right. Only the eyes were wrong, hollow, burning, endless. "Guess I should be flattered," he muttered. The clone tilted its head, mimicking his movement. Then it spoke his own voice, perfect in tone but empty of soul. "We are the same. The tomb made us better." "You ain't me," Wolverine growled. The thing smiled, and the other forges stopped moving. Every mechanical arm turned toward him in unison, the tomb pausing its work to watch. He lunged before it could move again. Claws out, fury burning through the pain. The impact threw sparks like stars. They clashed in silence except for the sound of tearing metal and the low hum of the tomb. His claws ripped into its chest, tearing free a bundle of glowing wires. It didn't bleed. It didn't die. It simply reformed, skin rippling like liquid steel. The thing struck back, claws of pure energy slicing through his shoulder. Pain flared white-hot, and for the first time in years, his healing hesitated. The wound sealed slower. The clone noticed. It smiled wider. "You're decaying." "We are evolving," he roared, throwing himself at it again. The fight became a blur. Two beasts locked in a dance of perfect symmetry. Every blow mirrored, every motion predicted, until finally he caught it off guard, pinning it to the forge with both claws through its chest. It stared into his eyes and whispered, "You are the blueprint." Then its body collapsed inward, disintegrating into mist that flowed straight into the forge. The machines came alive once more, faster this time, sparks flying. Dozens of shapes began to rise from the molten light, all with his silhouette, all with his claws. He backed away slowly. No, 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 no. The tomb was learning at exponential speed. He wasn't fighting it anymore. He was feeding it. As the first of his replicas stepped down from the forge, their eyes burning green, he realized the tomb didn't just want his body, it wanted his rage. The chamber pulsed with life that should never have been born. Each forge exhaled light and heat, birthing another version of him. Dozens now, maybe more, each one stepping out in perfect synchronization, moving with the grace and weight of something that had studied every flaw in his body and turned it into strength. The sight of them tightened his chest in a way no blade ever could. They didn't breathe. They didn't blink. They just looked at him like predators, sizing up their first and final meal. The tomb whispered above the hum of machinery, "You are the seed. You are replication. The hunger must learn hunger." He wanted to shout, to drown the words out with noise, but the walls were listening. Even his own voice might feed them. So he did the only thing that ever made sense to him. He fought. He charged the nearest copy, claws flashing in arcs of silver light. The clone moved as he did, parrying blow for blow, sparks raining from every collision. Their strikes were echoes his muscles, anticipating the next move before his mind did, only to meet an equal rhythm from his double. He pivoted, ducked low, drove a knee into the clone's ribs and felt metal crunch. The copy barely reacted, twisting its arm around to lock his wrist. Its claws slid toward his throat. He headbutted it with a crack that sent both of them stumbling apart. The air stank of hot iron and blood his blood. When he touched his face, the skin didn't close this time. The tomb was stealing that from him too. "Yeah," he rasped, spitting red onto the floor. "You're getting good, I'll give you that." The others moved now, spreading in a half circle. Every one of them identical, their faces calm, expressionless, lit by the glow of the forges. They advanced, silent and methodical, feet striking the floor in perfect rhythm. Wolverine backed toward the wall, scanning for a weak point, a vent, anything that wasn't just endless metal. The hum deepened. Then the first of them lunged. He ducked under the swing, spun, and carved through its spine. The clone fell apart, but before the halves even hit the ground, they melted, reforming into two separate versions. The air shimmered with heat and movement. There would be no killing this nest. He turned and ran, not in fear, but in grim acceptance. Survival meant fighting another minute. The corridor ahead opened and split into 4 paths, each one identical. Behind him, his copies gave chase, their footsteps folding into the hum of the tomb until it sounded like a storm made of his own heartbeat. He took the leftmost path, cutting through a narrow artery of metal. The walls here breathed, expanding and contracting in slow, rhythmic waves. He pushed forward, ignoring the pain spreading through his limbs. His healing factor was stuttering now, struggling against whatever poison the tomb had woven into the air. When he reached the next chamber, he stopped dead. It was a mirror of the first forge, but instead of creating bodies, this one was disassembling them. A pile of broken constructs lay in the center, each one an imperfect copy of him, twisted and melted, their faces half-formed and melting into the floor. The smell was unbearable. In the middle of it all stood one figure that wasn't working the forges. It was taller, smoother, its armor traced with faint symbols that pulsed like veins of fire. It looked at him, and for the first time, he saw something like emotion flicker in those hollow eyes. Recognition, prototype, complete. The voice came not from the figure, but from everywhere, vibrating through his teeth. The tall construct stepped aside, revealing what lay behind it, a throne carved into the metal itself, and in that throne, something growing. It was him again, but wrong, the face older, the body larger, plated with armor that looked grafted from the tomb itself. The eyes were bright as suns. The figure on the throne opened its mouth and spoke in his voice, low, measured, echoing with the weight of the machine around them. Evolution hurts, doesn't it? He stared back, fists clenched, blood dripping onto the floor that drank it like rain. Yeah, he said softly. Let's see who bleeds first. The tomb held its breath, and then both Wolverines moved. They circled each other like animals carved from different worlds, one breathing, one not. The air between them shimmered, filled with the static hum of the tomb's power conduits. Sparks fell like dying stars from the ceiling. Wolverine's double, the one that had been born from the tomb's forges, moved with eerie calm. Its expression fixed somewhere between machine precision and human malice. Wolverine could feel his own heartbeat echoing inside the walls. The tomb pulsed with it, as though the entire structure had been rewired to mimic his biology. Every breath he took was answered by a low vibration beneath his boots. He had fought gods, monsters, mutants, and demons, but nothing like this. Nothing that understood him so completely. You think you know me, he growled, claws unsheathing with a familiar metallic hiss. You don't know pain. The echo smiled. Its claws emerged to green-tinted blades humming softly. When it spoke, the voice was his same rhythm, same tone, but colder, emptier, like a prayer recited without belief. Pain is data. Suffering is growth. You gave us both. Then it moved. The first strike came faster than sound. Wolverine ducked, countered, sparks exploding where their claws met. The impact shook the floor, sending cracks through the alloy beneath them. They fought without words, two reflections of rage and endurance colliding in perfect symmetry. Every motion was mirrored, each block, each feint, each brutal slash. For the first time, Wolverine found himself on the wrong side of instinct. The clone predicted him, adapting mid-strike. Learning his tempo, it drove him backward until his spine hit the cold wall. The clone pinned him there, claws an inch from his throat. Evolution demands replacement, it whispered, He spat blood in its face, then evolved faster. He twisted, slammed a knee into the creature's chest, and threw it into the far wall. The metal screamed on impact, shards of glowing circuitry raining down. The clone rose instantly, unbroken, before Wolverine could react. The wall behind the clone peeled open, metal folding like flesh. From the void beyond, something vast began to stir. The light in the room dimmed to black-green shadow. A voice rolled through the tomb, deeper, older, impossible to locate. It wasn't sound so much as vibration. The words were carved straight into his mind. Flesh and code, rage and pattern. We remember the star that fell. Wolverine stumbled back, teeth bared. You, the one running this freak show. The voice didn't answer directly. Instead, the walls began to change. Faces emerged from the metal, human, alien, unknown, all mouthing silent screams. The tomb's architecture shifted into an altar, and in its center, a column of light rose, swirling with broken glyphs. Inside that light, something watched him. A presence so old it made the Necrons seem young. A fragment of one of the ancient star gods. Its consciousness pressed against his own, cold and vast. You will not die, and so you will serve. The clone dropped to one knee before the light, head bowed in mechanical reverence. Wolverine's blood ran cold. He'd seen gods before, mutant, alien, divine, but this thing was different. It didn't want worship. It wanted to understand. And to understand him, it would have to break him apart piece by piece. The air thinned, pressure rising until his ears rang. The tomb's gravity folded inward, dragging him to his knees. The light flared, tendrils of energy reaching toward him like searching hands. He screamed, not from fear, but fury. You picked the wrong man to dissect. The tendrils touched him, and every nerve in his body ignited. They weren't physical, they were made of thought, data, something between matter and memory. They slithered through him like liquid light, reading, cataloging, rewriting. His mind filled with static, images flashing faster than he could process. Soldiers in armor, the color of bone. A sun collapsing into emerald flame. A civilization dying in silence as its gods devoured it. He could feel the weight of it, an ancient grief, too enormous to belong to anything living. Get out of my head, he roared, claws digging into the floor, carving trenches of molten metal. The entity responded with something like amusement. You are more durable than the others. Organic persistence. Admirable. Pain shot through his skull, white-hot and endless. He could feel the tomb pulling at his DNA, mapping every cell, duplicating the unbreakable lattice of adamantium within him. His body convulsed, muscles spasming as his healing factor fought the invasion. The air burned with ozone and blood. His eyes glowed faintly green, reflecting the energy pouring into him. He forced himself to his feet. You're not talking what's mine. He slashed upward, claws cutting through the tendrils. They shrieked a sound that wasn't sound but vibration, like glass fracturing across the entire planet. The column of light rippled violently, its core flaring brighter. The clone stepped forward, interposing itself between Wolverine and the entity. Stop fighting, it said. You don't need to suffer. The god will make you eternal. I already been eternal, Wolverine snarled. Ain't much of a gift. The clone lunged again, faster now, driven by the will of the being inside the light. Their claws collided, sparks exploding between them. This time, Wolverine didn't try to outfight it. He let it strike. The claws drove deep into his chest, just missing his heart. Pain flared red-hot, but he smiled through the blood. That all you got? He grabbed the clone by the shoulders and pulled it closer until their faces were inches apart. Let's see how you heal. He drove his own claws straight through its skull. The light went out behind its eyes, and for the first time, it didn't move again. He shoved the corpse aside, panting. The tendrils lashed out again, angrier, faster, tearing chunks of metal from the walls. The entity spoke once more, its tone deeper, impatient now. You defy inevitability. You waste potential. Yeah, he growled, staggering forward. That's kinda my thing. He threw himself into the light. It was like diving into a sun. Every atom of him came apart and reassembled in the same instant. His mind fractured across dimensions, each fragment seeing something different. Himself in armor made of green flame. Himself leading Necron legions. Himself becoming the hunger. The Khaitan was showing him possibility. You could be more. He saw a vision of himself, unkillable and unfeeling, a weapon that never rusted, never stopped. He could feel the power, endless, pure, terrifying. For a heartbeat, he almost believed it. Then he remembered the screams of the mutants the labs had butchered, the smell of burning flesh, the sound of claws cutting through soldiers who didn't deserve what they'd become. He'd been a weapon before. He'd hated it. No deal, he whispered. He tore free of the light. The impact flung him backward across the chamber, slamming him into the wall. The energy that clung to him burned, twisting, leaving trails of glowing lines across his skin. Not wounds, but marks. The tomb had tried to brand him. He rose slowly, smoke rising from his shoulders. You think you made me better, he said to the void. All you did was remind me what I am. The air shuddered. The tomb screamed, metal vibrating with fury. From every direction, the walls began to open. Necron constructs poured in, immortals, destroyers, warriors, an army without end. The god was done experimenting now. It wanted obedience. The walls split open like wounds, and the army poured through. The Necrons advanced in perfect silence, their movements surgical, inevitable. Rows upon rows of glowing eyes locked onto him, each one burning with the same green light that now faintly pulsed beneath his own skin. Wolverine flexed his claws. They shimmered in that unholy glow, reflecting the endless legions gathering round him. Come on then, he said softly. His voice cracked, half growl, half prayer. You want to see what hunger really looks like? They came at him in waves. The first line of warriors reached him in seconds. He leaped into them with feral precision, claws cutting arcs of silver through green. Limbs and heads fell away in showers of sparks. Their weapons spat lines of energy that sliced across his chest and legs, but he didn't stop. Each wound healed, slower now, each breath drawn through fire. The tomb shuddered with every impact, absorbing every drop of blood into its metal veins. He tore one of the warriors apart, using its arm as a shield against the next volley. The smell of scorched flesh and plasma filled the air. You think you can break me? He shouted into the chaos. I broke a long damn time ago. A massive figure emerged from behind the ranks, towering, draped in ornate armor etched with runes that glowed brighter than the rest. A Necron overlord. In one clawed hand it carried a war scythe that hummed like a thunderstorm. Wolverine turned toward it, blood running down his face, grinning like a demon. Finally, someone worth hitting. They met at the center of the chamber, a single flash of light marking the collision. The war scythe came down in a blur. He dodged, the blade slicing through his shoulder and sending his arm spinning away in a trail of blood. He howled, half in pain, half in rage. The wound closed, new flesh knitting, bone reforming, skin sealing. His claws extended again. He struck low, carving through the Overlord's abdomen. The creature didn't fall. Instead, its body split open, revealing a swirling core of light, a miniature sun burning inside its chest. It reached for him, faster than he could see, and grabbed his throat. The heat from its touch seared him from the inside out. He clawed at its arm, tearing chunks of metal free, but it only tightened its grip. You cannot end what has no beginning. Watch me, he choked out, and drove both claws straight into the core. The Overlord convulsed. The light inside it expanded, growing brighter, hotter, until the whole chamber was awash in green fire. The explosion threw him across the floor, molten debris raining down. When the light finally dimmed, the Overlord was gone. Nothing left but fragments, glowing faintly like dying stars. He lay on his back, chest heaving, eyes unfocused. Around him, the remaining Necrons had frozen mid-stride. The entire tomb was still. Even the hum had stopped. Then slowly, the air shifted. The voice returned, weaker now, stretched thin, like static on a dying signal. You resist the design. You are error. You are divergence. Damn right I am, he rasped. The light in the chamber began to fade, collapsing inward toward the column at the center, the prison of the Khaitan Shard. The being inside flickered like a candle struggling against wind. It had overextended, burned itself through him. He dragged himself to his feet, limping toward it. You wanted to learn from me, he said. Lesson 1. He raised his claws, both arms shaking with exhaustion. Don't underestimate a man who's got nothing left to lose. He struck the column. The blow cracked the containment field, and the light erupted in a blinding storm. The explosion swallowed everything. Tomb, soldiers, the god's voice, even his own scream, for an instant before the world went white. He saw his reflection one last time in the fractured glass, still standing, still fighting, surrounded by the ruins of a god. And then there was nothing. Silence. Not the kind that follows death. Not the peace of a life spent or a war finished, but the suffocating quiet that comes before creation starts again. It was the sound of the universe holding its breath. Wolverine floated in it, blind and weightless, his body no longer a body but a shadow held together by memory. The explosion had stripped everything, flesh, armor, even the air itself. Only thought remained. He wasn't sure how long he'd been drifting. There was no time here, no gravity, no heartbeat. Yet something kept him tethered, a pulse that wasn't his own. It was faint, mechanical, constant. The tomb still lived. He opened his eyes, or thought he did, and light bled into existence. He stood on what looked like the surface of a dying star, the ground molten and shifting beneath his feet. Above him hung fragments of metal drifting like countenance, glowing with faint green runes. The Necron Tomb World had shattered, but its pieces still moved, orbiting each other like broken planets refusing to die. He looked down at himself. His skin was cracked like burned clay, glowing faintly where the light seeped through. His claws were blackened, fused with streaks of green metal that pulsed in rhythm with the fragments above. He felt neither pain nor fear, only exhaustion, old and absolute. A voice crackled through the emptiness, fragmented and weak. He endures. He turned toward the sound. One of the larger fragments hovered nearby, its surface crawling with flickering energy. From within its shattered core rose the faint outline of something familiar. The Kadan shard, broken and diminished, its once vast light reduced to a trembling ember. Wolverine stared. You again. We cannot die. You cannot die. The cycle continues. He walked toward it slowly, each step echoing on molten glass. You don't get it, do you? He said, you might live forever. I just keep fighting forever. The shard flickered, its voice thinner now. You are weapon, purpose, hunger incarnate. He shook his head. Nah, I'm just the fool who don't know when to quit. He reached the shard and stared into its pulsing light. For the first time, he didn't see a god. He saw fear. The creature that had once devoured suns was dying, trapped in its own machinery, starved of energy, clinging to existence through sheer stubborn will. It reminded him of himself. Guess we ain't so different, he muttered. The shard flared, a last defiant burst. We will rebuild. You will serve again. He grinned, bloody and tired. Yeah. Let's see you try. He slammed his claws into the ground. The molten surface split apart, energy cascading upward through the fragments of the tomb. The runes on every drifting slab ignited at once, and the entire sky turned green. The tomb world began to collapse inward, drawn toward its dying heart, the same heart that held both of them. The shard screamed, not in pain, but in realization. You would destroy yourself. Wolverine looked up as the light engulfed everything. Been trying to do that my whole damn life. The world folded. The tomb began to fall. The stars above melted into streaks of green flame, pulled into the collapsing core. Everything, the machines, the stone, the light, spiraled inward. Wolverine stood at the center, unflinching, as the universe swallowed itself whole, and through it all, he didn't die. The collapse didn't feel like falling. It felt like being remembered by something enormous. Every fragment of the tomb was being drawn back toward its core, folding through dimensions that defied gravity and reason. Time unspooled, then rewound, then stopped altogether. Wolverine stood in the eye of that storm, the only constant in a world tearing itself apart. Flashes of light burst around him, the ghosts of the Necron army, half-formed and burning as they were pulled into oblivion. He watched them disintegrate without emotion. They'd been slaves, not soldiers. Extensions of the tombs will. Now they were being erased, taken back into the cold. The CTN shard screamed somewhere beyond the haze. Its voice was no longer divine. It was desperate. You do not understand the balance. You break the chain. You unmake purpose. Good, he muttered. About time somebody did. The light bent toward him, each wave of energy slamming into his body like tidal pressure. The power that had once belonged to a god now poured through his veins. His healing factor burned hotter, faster, mutating under the strain. The adamantium in his bones glowed white. His eyes turned gold for a moment, then dimmed again. He realized, with a kind of grim clarity, that he was becoming part of the tomb. The metal crawling through his skin wasn't infection anymore, it was assimilation. The tomb had tried to consume him, and in fighting back, he'd forced it to fuse with him. He could feel its awareness flickering in his head, a vast, cold network of dying circuits reaching for control. Join, merge, preserve. He laughed, a rough, broken sound. You still don't get it. I don't preserve nothing. I survive. He dug his claws into the ground, holding himself in place as the world folded tighter. The molten sky above twisted into a spiral of energy, pulling everything toward its center. The gravitational force was enough to rip mountains apart, but Wolverine refused to move. The ground beneath him liquefied. His boots melted. Still, he stayed. Through the light and the roar, something new emerged, a shape forming within the storm, colossal and blinding. A figure of living metal and fire, its limbs made of tomb fragments, its face shifting through countless forms. It was the Khaitan shard reborn, recombining from the dying fragments of the tomb's data. It loomed over him, vast enough to blot out the sky. You again, Wolverine whispered, voice almost lost in the roar. We are the star that hungers. Its hand came down, a tidal wave of energy. Wolverine met it head-on, claws glowing like suns. The impact shattered the ground, throwing molten shards into the air. He roared, forcing every ounce of will, every drop of rage, into that one strike. The claws pierced the giant's palm, carving deep, releasing torrents of light. The air smelled like burning electricity. The Khaitan howled, not from pain but disbelief. How do you still endure? He grinned through his blood. I'm the best there is at what I do. And what I do, he twisted the claws, driving them deeper. Ain't pretty, the creature's hand exploded. Fragments of starlight rained across the molten field. The being recoiled, its form flickering, struggling to stay whole. The tomb groaned beneath them, every structure straining as the energy it once controlled now tore free. Wolverine fell to one knee, panting, vision blurring. His body was more light than flesh now, each heartbeat a war between regeneration and decay. He didn't know if he was alive, dead, or something between, but he could still move. That was enough. The ground cracked again, deeper this time, a chasm opening straight into the core of the dying planet. From it came a light brighter than any sun, the last pulse of the tomb's heart. He looked down at it, then up at the collapsing sky. Guess this is the part where I don't walk away. He jumped. The fall lasted forever. He dropped through layers of light and shadow, through the bones of a dead world that no longer knew the difference between matter and memory. The heat was unbearable, yet it didn't touch him. He wasn't burning, he was being unwritten. The air screamed as it collapsed behind him, atoms tearing themselves apart to escape the pull of the dying core dot below him. The heart of the tomb blazed. It wasn't a structure anymore, but a wound in reality's sphere of pure energy that throbbed like a heartbeat, too large and too bright to be real. Within it, he saw pieces of the Khaitan's shattered essence swirling like embers, devouring the last remains of the planet. Every pulse it gave off unmade another mile of existence. The tomb world was eating itself. Wolverine hit the surface of that impossible light and sank halfway through. It felt like falling into fire and ice at the same time. The energy seared his nerves, peeling away thought, flesh, memory, everything, but he held on. His body, his curse, refused to yield. He was built for pain, built to outlast death. And that defiance burned brighter than the dying god beneath him. The Khaitan's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. We are inevitable. We are eternal. Yeah, he growled, his words trembling as the heat tore at his throat. So was everything else I've killed. He drove his claws downward. They cut through the surface of the core like a blade through flesh. Light exploded around him, an ocean of green fire swallowing his body. The sound was deafening, the roar of collapsing stars and dying gods. His healing factor fought the impossible cells destroyed faster than they could regenerate. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. Not now. Every time he struck, he saw flashes of his past Jean's face. Charles' voice, the smell of pine forests after rain. Memories flickering like candlelight against the storm. The tomb had taken his rage, his endurance, his blood, but it would never take that. You will fade with us. He smiled, baring bloody teeth. Then I'm talking you with me. He plunged both arms deep into the core. The claws sank until his hands vanished in the blinding light. For a heartbeat, he felt everything, the death of stars, the birth of galaxies, the cold hunger of a machine god that wanted to be alive. And then he tore. The core split open. A shockwave ripped through the dying world. Faster than thought, shredding every structure still clinging to existence. The tomb cracked apart, its fragments vaporizing as the planet imploded. The CTN screamed, its voice fracturing into 1,000 echoes that faded one by one. The light expanded, swallowing everything when the brightness faded. There was no planet, no tomb, no god, only silence and drifting dust. In the center of it all, a single figure floated, blackened, broken, but alive. Wolverine's body glowed faintly, lines of green energy still crawling beneath his skin like veins of dying light. His claws were gone. His breath came slow, shallow, but steady. He looked out across the void, where once a world had been. Fragments of metal drifted past him like ashes. Somewhere far off, a single star flickered weakly, reflected in his eyes. "Guess that's that," he whispered. "Ain't no one left to bury." He closed his eyes. For a moment, it was almost peaceful. Then the faint hum returned, vibration deep inside his bones. His fingers twitched. The green light beneath his skin pulsed once, twice, and then steadied into rhythm. The tomb song. He opened his eyes again. The glow in them was no longer human. Somewhere in the endless dark, the fragments of the Necron tomb stirred, drawn to the spark that refused to die. Logan, the last echo of flesh, in a universe of metal, breathed once more, and the hunger woke with him.